ShoreMaster's cantilever lifts are lightweight and durable. They function well in non-fluctuating water depths of more than 2.5 feet. ShoreMaster always considers safety first. Wear protective clothing, footwear, protective eyewear, and use gloves when assembling the lift. Assemble the lift in a large, level, open workspace area. Do not attempt to assemble the cantilever lift if any parts are damaged or missing. Instead, contact ShoreMaster or your dealer for assistance. Identify parts prior to assembly and remove parts from boxes, bags, and bundles. Compare to the parts list in the enclosed instructions. After identifying parts, it's easier to keep small parts and hardware in the box until needed. Snip all straps holding pieces or bundles together. 2 or more people are required to safely assemble and install the ShoreMaster cantilever lift. Be certain to have basic shop tools for the assembly process. To begin, insert all 4 leg posts into the foot pads and secure each one with one 3.5 by 3/8 bolt and a 3/8 inch flange nut. Insert the leg posts into the lift sides and secure at the desired height using the J-pins and cotter pins. Position the lift sides 9 or 10 feet apart depending on the size of the lift. With the lift side connector plates to the outside of the lift, attach the rear and the front bottom beams to the right and left lift sides using 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch bolts, 6 flat 1/2 inch washers, and 3 1/2 inch brass nuts at each position as shown. The nuts should be fastened on the inside of the lift. All bolts should only be hand tightened until the lift is completely assembled. The front bottom beam lift hinges are closer to each other than the rear bottom beam hinges, and the hinges must be positioned toward the rear of the lift as shown. Attach a support brace to each side of the front bottom beam and secure to the right and left lift sides using a 3/8 by 3 3/4 inch bolt, 2 flat washers, and a 3/8 inch brass flange nut on each end of each brace. Note that the slot end of the support braces should attach to the lift sides, and the hole end of the braces attach to the front bottom beam. Bolts go in with the nuts facing to the inside and the rear of the lift. At this time, all bolts assembled so far can be tightened down. Attach the front I-beam with its triangular gusset plates facing up and out to each front bottom beam hinge. Secure to each hinge with a 1/2 by 5 inch bolt, 2 flat washers, and a 1/2 inch nylock brass nut. Be sure to pass the hinge bolts through the bushings in the I-beam. Bolts mount from the inside and nuts fasten to the outside. A rubber mallet can be used to gently force these hinge bolts through the bushings. Do not over-tighten the nylock nuts. Also, nylock nuts should never be reused. If a nylock nut is removed, it should be replaced with a new one. The front I-beam is narrower than the rear I-beam. Attach the rear I-beam to the rear bottom beam hinges in a similar way. Again, the triangular gusset plates must face outward in attaching the rear I-beam to the rear bottom beam. Once again, 2 washers are used. Remember not to over-tighten the nylock nuts on the I-beam assemblies. Attach the rack to each front I-beam hinge using a 1/2 by 5 inch bolt, 2 flat washers, and a 1/2 inch nylock brass nut. The rack lift hinges face forward. Again, do not over-tighten the nylock nuts at these hinge points. Replace any nylock nuts that have been removed with new ones. The rack attaches to the rear I-beam in the same way. Rack bolts enter from the outside and nuts fasten on the inside of the rack and I-beam assembly. Again, don't over-tighten these nylock nuts. Next, mount 2 pulleys fitted with 3 chain links to each of the rack pillow angles on the front of the rack and lift with a 1/2 by 5 inch bolt and a 1/2 inch brass nut. Tighten these pulley bolts securely. Slide the winch cable end with the eyelet onto the 4.5 inch U-bolt and attach securely to the opposite upright with 1/2 inch washers and nuts. Thread the bare end of the cable through the nearest pulley. Thread the cable through the opposite pulley on the winch mount upright side. On the lift side winch upright, mount the pulley with 2 chain links onto a 1/2 by 4.5 inch U-bolt just above the lift side winch upright diagonal. Secure with 1/2 inch washers and nuts. Slide the cable through this final pulley from the inside of the lift as shown.